The Last Starfighter, a really cool movie that released in 1984, featured a false arcade game as part of the story plot. The lead character, Alex, when he got the high score and beat the game, was suddenly whisked away to go fight the evil Kodan Armada in space. Now, Doc at roguesandapps.com has recreated the Last Starfighter game cabinet to a fully playable unit. You can also download the actual game program to play on your PC. Now let's talk to Doc a little bit about his Last Starfighter cabinet and the other projects he's been working on. First off, uh, what's your name?
I don't usually put my name with my stuff because I'm a physician down in Dallas,
Okay.
and I've had a few older patients before I got savvy not to put my actual name out there, search me, and find game stuff, and
Ah, ah, ah.
so
Well, what about your internet handle then? Let's use
uh,
that.
Doc from Rogue Synapse.
Doc at Rogues Steps. Okay. Oh, how did you get started with the Rogue Synapse idea?
Well, I collect movie props, and I've collected arcade machines for years, and I always wanted some of the games that you saw in films, but they never made. And so Rogue Synapse started as a way to try and recreate some of those games, and then also uh, to sort of movie eyes and otherwise accessorize some older arcade products. So.
So you actually like to collect like old Hollywood movie props and things like that?
Hmm.
How big of a collection do you have of movie props?
My fiance is laughing. I have a pretty big collection of originals and replicas.
Oh wow.
I collect a lot.
What's the most unique Hollywood prop you think you have?
I would have to say actually the Starfighter machine because it works. But other ones I have, like I have a replica of the time machine from George Powell's original The Time Machine, but it was the one that wound up being used on the Big Bang episode where they had the time machine. And I don't know, have a lot of unusual stuff from horror and sci-fi. I have some original Andromeda strain. I'm a little older, so I collect older stuff. But I have a lot of big stuff. So in addition to the arcade stuff, I have a lot of life-size replicas
Oh wow.
and a lot of robots.
So is this like a just a personal collection, or do you have them like on display for people to see, or
It's really a personal collection,
personal
and
collection?
we'll have parties or folks will come over to see them, but it's really just in my home.
What inspired you to make the Last Starfighter cabinet?
Well, years ago, I guess probably starting around 2004, um, I had finished a Space Paranoids, which was my first full build of a movie arcade crossover, and I sort of wanted to do Starfighter. And I'm on a forum called the Replica Props Forum, and so all of this actually started as a replica prop, and then crossed over to KLOV and the arcade forums. But someone over there said, well, I'll do a Starfighter game if everybody chips in, $50. So I think I sent some money in, and then it just sort of went poof. And I thought, well, I probably, with a little help could do that. So, I didn't do all of the models and things myself. The Starfighter, the Gunstar was done by another guy, and of course the music is the MIDI that was off the net. And so I kind of grabbed some resources, and then some of the models that don't look quite as good, those are mine. Um, and so the uh, the Kodan fighters and scout ships, and of course the command ship, I did those. But started just writing the program, and I kind of always do a test to see if I can get the HUD even close, and that's what actually took the longest time. It's a complex HUD, so I wound up working at the two globes that you see on the sides that represent ship condition and position with regard to the ball turret, which is your gunner, and then the actual scanner. Those are locked objects onto the screen, and it took me forever to get them to rotate properly because of various points where it would actually invert it by 180 degrees. And once I figured that out and wrote an algorithm that kind of got it right, then the rest of the game was actually not that bad. Um,
Well, how long did it take you to actually write the program?
Probably about a year and a half, maybe two, off and on in free time. And
Holy cow.
I tried to get as much in the way of original resources as I could. The models and such, because it's such an early game, even as they portrayed it in the film, were not bad. So this compiler I used, which is Dark Basic, was very good at mimicking those polygonals. But the sound I had a lot of trouble with, and I ultimately was lucky enough to get an original mag strip of Robert Preston, who did some voice talent simply for the game. And I got that mag strip and then found a place that still had equipment to take a mag strip and transfer it to digital, and used a lot of those sounds in the game. And it was things like that that kind of moved the project along, and those were some of the things I was just waiting on to try and get it finished.
Oh. But how long did it take you to actually construct the actual machine?
So, I acquired the cabinet from a fellow by the name of David Fine, who has been on board with this project for a long time. And he actually, at the same time I was writing the software, had listed the Starfighter for sale on eBay. And so I contacted him and told him what I was doing, and we wound up arranging for me to acquire the cabinet from the documentary. And so I actually, all the plans and such are based on measurements from that cabinet. I don't know what happened to the original. My understanding was that it was destroyed, but I've been since informed that there's a private collector who has it. But ultimately, I never had to build my own Starfighter cabinet. I used the one from the movie, and then basically stuck
Oh,
all
wow.
the hardware in it. And the only changes we made, and I was careful with it, was for the joysticks. I actually had to enlarge the two joysticks holes. Of course, they had false joysticks in with just grommets. So it was um, aluminum poles stuck into custom balsa handles that went through some rubber grommets into the machine, and so the holes were quite small, and I had to enlarge those to about a 2.5 inch hole. And so now there's a couple of top fires through there, and we're still actually modifying the uh, some other hop fires to accommodate the custom aluminum handles.
So did you make your own controls for the game, or was you able to find something that was close?
The top fires work perfectly. So it's an eight-way joystick with a top fire button,
Okay.
and those work exactly as you'd want them to from the game. So in the original show where you saw him moving, I tried to figure out how the joysticks obviously moved, the cockpit and the reticle, and honestly, two joysticks, almost a Robotron configuration, but with the buttons on the top to allow you to fire, worked. I kept the original switches from the game. Well, I have those in a box, but I kept the original switches for the game for laser particle beam and proton bolts, and those all you have to kind of reach over to get. But I kept them original to the game, so all of the controls are off the shelf kind of things that were integrated into the cabinet.
What kind of computer is this running on inside of the cabinet?
It's an older Alienware.
Alienware? Okay. What kind of monitor are you using?
It's a 27-inch LCD, and then the program runs in a 4 by 3 window. So some of the monitor is blocked off,
Oh,
uh, and it makes it fills the actual space. It's an awkward machine because there's not really any monitor that would have easily fitted and not protruded off the back by almost a foot.
looking at one of the pictures here, I see you have like simulated lights and everything underneath the main display, and it looks like you got some custom graphics on here as well. Did you make those, or did you have them made?
No, they came. The cabinet came as is from the documentary. So
Oh, okay.
we backlit those. Some of the small round lights that you see are little resin tubes that they cast and then put in place, and the rest is all done as an older kind of wax screen. It's a slightly clear plastic, and they put literally gels behind them. And so all I did was put a fluorescent light behind them and block it off so it wouldn't interfere with the monitor. and light those two areas, well, three areas.
Right. And you've also mentioned that you've actually made other movie arcade games into a reality as well. What are some of the other ones that you've made?
So the non-existent projects that we've done, I did uh, the original one I did was Space Paranoids, and then Starfighter. I just I finished Polybius, I guess, about 6 years ago, and released that. That was a viral release through the site. So if you go on and look at our arcade, there's a Polybius machine in there, and the click on that, it'll enlarge the picture, and then you click on the machine, it takes you into the rabbit hole to download and build your own Polybius if you want to shock and mind control your friends. And then um, I did a Fix It Felix. Obviously, the software and artwork wasn't mine, but did that pretty recently, and then did a Incom game. I've started doing the viral postcards because I didn't necessarily want to rebuild Space Paranoids after Disney had done one. And so I did started with Astro Gunner, which is a 3D asteroids, and we're going to put that on the site soon. Uh,
Oh,
Still working on Bishop of Battle, which I shelved because of a movie project that came our way, and I didn't want to continue working on Bishop of Battle while I was working on that,
yes.
and wound up constructing another. Um, uh, Actually, it was a cabinet used in a movie, but the movie hasn't been released. So something called Altar of the Unnamed, which is a very weird horror movie. And then working on a Star Trek arcade, um, the Star Trek Strategic Operations simulator, the old Sega game,
Yeah.
but translating that to graphics that look pretty much like the original series, and that'll be the next release. Hopefully, it's getting at least I've been working on that for 4 years, so it's getting slowly but surely done, and it has the original levels plus Doomsday Machine and the Romulan levels, so Balance of Terror. And I've tried to add in all these bonus levels that include the Tholian Web and all
Oh,
the things
wow.
that original that I really wanted to play, but they never did, and, including an, I guess an original series Borg, which looks like Christmas lights in a box, and uh, a an animated level, which looks like you're playing the cartoon, which is kind of fun.
Oh, wow. Well, that was Doc from RogueSynapse.com. I'll put a link to his website in the show notes. You need to check it out because there's other great games there that you can try out, like Tron Space Paranoids for one. Thanks for watching.